Here I was, a kid from, white middle-class American kid, all of a sudden living and running drugs in the streets of Chicago, getting beat up by, vice cops and going through projects and running. I sometimes run opiates from Chicago down to like Kansas and Missouri to try and get speed to take back up there. I mean, it was a dark, terrible life.
Everybody, what's going on? Korey here in the middle of the day. If I'm here in the middle of the day, as usual, I'm talking to somebody special. I'm not an early person, so it takes a really special person to get me here in this time of day. And big fan of this very multi-talented individual I'm about to talk to right now. All of you definitely know his face if you don't know his name, but they're starting to know his name very well right now. And forgive me if I mispronounce it. I'm going to try my best to get this right. I should have asked beforehand, but ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. David Dastmalchian.
That was very good, very impressive. I applaud you. It's a hard one, so thank you.
But was it right?
It was close. Okay. I mean, sometimes close does count, it does count. In golf, close counts, I guess, although I don't play golf. But it's like, here's the trick. This small chin, like you got a small chin, so Dastmalchian, Dave Dastmalchian, Dave Dastmalchian. Dastmalchian.
Oh. Perfect. Well, please forgive me, man. The last person I want to offend is you right now, because I have, and we'll talk about this later, I have been a fan of yours before I think your career even took off to where it is right now, and we will talk about that in a little bit. But again, thank you for being here, and the reason why we're here today, and like I said, a lot of you know the face right now, but actor David Dastmalchian, but also we can say writer at this moment.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And I thank you for starting early. I know that you would prefer to get a little more rest. My wife is like that. She's very protective of that resting time and sleeping in time. And so, I have to be very careful when I need to wake her up. Like this morning, I cut myself shaving and I needed to open a bottle of this thing and I couldn't do it because I'd already put like some lotion on my hands. So I had to creep into the room and ask her gently without awakening the beast. So I appreciate, I understand the importance of those who don't like to get up early. So thank you for doing it on my behalf. It means a lot.
Oh, well, I would get up for you anyway, but also we're going to be talking about wives. My wife would say to you, he needs to get his ass up anyway. So, so this is a good thing. How long have you been married?
So this year in 2022, we will be going into so it's 2013 to, I can't do the math. That's 9 years we've been married, Eve? Shit. 9 years we've been married. We've been together for 13. But this will be our 9th year married, and it gets better every day, every week, every month, every year. She is the coolest, best friend I could have ever asked for, and we're having a real good time.
Wow, man, that is the sweetest thing I've ever heard. I'm going to go back and memorize all this. I'm glad we're recording this right now. So
hey, just give me a commission. I take 10%. So, if, I don't know how that translates. If that means your wife gets you a cool gift bag with it, I want 10% of it. If it's like she does a nice dinner for you or something, she takes you somewhere nice, like just 10%.
Okay, and if it equals good sex, I'll give you 20%, man. So, hey, let's talk about your book. And I've been enjoying what I've been seeing, man. There it is right there. And I also have a picture of it right here for you people want to see it even bigger and clearer. Count Crowley, Reluctant Midnight Monster Hunter. First of all, I do love horror, and I love horror comics. And I was looking at the comic itself. I'm going to try to get... Is this available on Comixology?
I believe it is. Yes, I know there's digital version available either through Dark Horse or Things from Another World, but I believe it's also on Comixology for sure. So yes, and it's the trade paperback. If people like getting hard copy, is you could get it on Amazon or any other online retailer. But the new issues, like the new single issues that are coming out now, are only available right now in comic book shops. They won't be available online for a minute, I think. But yeah.
Well, I definitely want to get this. And I'm not just saying this in a way where I want to support. No, I actually was looking at some of the sample pages that were put up, and they look great. And I'll tell you why they really appealed to me in a little bit. But you are so proud of this that you actually made a trailer for the comic. Do you mind if I show some of this?
No. And just let me give a little information for your audience to understand. So I grew up, in the 80s in Kansas City. We had our hometown local horror hostess, who was this woman, Cremation Mortem. And then when I moved to Chicago, I found out about Sven Gooley, who I also love and is a friend of mine. And then I was watching Joe Bob Briggs, and I was a big fan of Vampire, all the horror hosts. So that is the initial inspiration for the idea that came about. But secretly, between you and me, I have always wanted to be a horror host. I wanted to host my own late night creature feature. So when I had the chance to promote my comic book, I said, oh, I'm going to bring out Dr. Fearless. So go ahead, roll the tape when you're ready. But there's a little context for what you're about to see.
No, thank you for that. Thank you for that. And Dr. Fearless?
Dr. Fearless.
How did it come to this? I used to be a legend. Oh! I got my teeth. Welcome back to the show. I am your host, Dr. Fearless. Now, before we get back to tonight's creature feature, we have a word from our sponsor. I am smiling.
So that is awesome, man. I can tell you have a love for the kitsch horror that is the inspiration behind the comic. That's hilarious. It's over 2 minutes long. I wish I could show the whole thing, but time and everything.
People got to go find it. You guys got to go find it after you watch our interview and all the brilliance that we're going to share with you today. You got to go find those, and we've made a bunch now over the last couple of years. We had so much fun when we started making those videos that we've continued to do it. But during the pandemic, it's tricky to do this stuff because of, obviously, coronavirus. So like that one that you're watching, I just built that set with my wife and my kids using our Halloween decorations in my bedroom. And then my wife was running the camera. My 4-year-old daughter, was running the fog machine, and she ran so much fog because she just kept hitting the button that my smoke alarm actually did go off in the middle of taping. So most of the funniest stuff that we get making these is usually just because actually real accidents happen. Like I forget to put my teeth in, my daughter triggers the smoke alarm, the cat runs across the screen. But I love making those, and they've been a fun way to drum up some attention for the comic book.
Very nice.
There she is. There's my girl.
There's
that
the cat.
By the way, the little side note on that cat, that's Abner Bubblegum Polka Dot Cat, the cat that I adopted while I was on the set of The Suicide Squad, James Gunn's movie, back in 2020 in January, right before the pandemic. We were finishing that movie in Panama, Colón, Panama, and that cat, she kept walking up on set every day, and then I just said, this is my cat now. And I kept her, and I've had her ever since.
What's the cat's name again?
Well, for short, we call her Bubblegum, but her full name is Abner Bubblegum Polka Dot Cat. But my kids wanted to call her Bubblegum, so she's Bubblegum.
Nice, man. She looks like a bubble gum. I can see it.
She is the best cat, man. I've had a lot of great cats in my life, but this cat is special.
No, is she like a really calm cat, very friendly to
people?
So
calm. She's so chill. She knows like when I need some snuggles. She knows when I want to be left alone. She's super patient. We had we had her and the kids are young. My son is 8, my daughter is 4. But when we adopted Bubblegum, my daughter was 2, my son was 6. So they were like, they're so wild and rambunctious and like crazy. I was like, oh my gosh. And she's so patient with them. And yeah, she's just a great cat. During the pandemic, you know, it was hard for all of us, but it was really nice having her around because she just seemed to know, you know, what we would need. She can also be super funny because she'll just play, like do crazy chasing, jumping off the wall stuff. Like this cat is wild.
Man, you love this cat.
I feel like she adopted us. We didn't adopt her.
I could tell you love this cat. You were like gushing over this cat, and it's the sweetest thing I've seen, man.
You know, she actually she's a little bit of a celebrity. If you Google, I don't know what you would look up, but right before the Suicide Squad came out, I posted a picture of her in the Polka Dot Man costume because when I was in Atlanta working on the Suicide Squad, the costume team knew that I was in the process of adopting this cat. So they had this cat costume made, a beautiful leather Polka Dot Man costume. And my cat, there it is.
There it is.
You got it. I posted that picture online. Dude, that cat got more attention than I've gotten in my whole, you know, how long have I been doing this now? 13 years of being an actor. That cat got more cred and celebrity attention than I could have ever hoped for.
Yeah, I remember seeing that picture, man. That's awesome to actually talk to you and get the whole story behind the picture, man. That's great. This is why I love doing these kind of interviews. You know, talking about your comic here, so your name is listed on there as the writer, but we see a couple other names on there, like the artist Lucas Kettner. You know, as the writer, do you have control over, or do you pick who's going to be on your team to get the comic done?
I technically do, but interestingly, the way it worked was, so I first came up and conceived of this idea over many years, and I thought of it originally as like a movie or a TV show, kind of like a Kolchak, the Night Stalker, or Friday the 13th, the series, or one of these, you know, episodic kind of horror comedy-ish things where I was always dreaming it up. I was always dreaming up the story. I pitched the idea, and this really, you know, big legendary TV executive loved the idea, and he said, you know, I think you should develop this as a comic book. And I said, comic books are my life. That's like my dream. And he said, he introduced me to the Dark Horse people and Mike Richardson, and they immediately said, we want to make this comic book with you, and then maybe down the road, this is something we could then develop as a TV series or a movie. So I had all these ideas. I knew what I wanted the comic book to look like. I wanted it to be inspired by these, you know, Frazetta and Bernie Wrightson kind of, you know, old artwork. I love old, you know, Marvel stuff and DC and Golden Key and you know, I've always loved horror comics, you know. And so anyway, the people at Dark Horse, they paired me with an editor who, this is actually one of the, I've had this comic since I was a little kid. But
nice.
I'm always collecting, you know, I love this stuff.
Wow.
So anyway, they said, we've got the perfect editor for you. And they paired me with Megan Walker, who at that point was editing a lot of cool comics. Megan's also a student of cinema and television, and so she also works in Dark Horse development for all their production stuff. But she was the perfect fit for me, man. She just got it. She understood what I was trying to do, and I showed her. I'd created these documents with you know, clips and screen grabs of the art and the artistry and the tone that I wanted to convey. And then she said to me, first, I think that Lucas Kettner would be the right artist for this book. And I said, oh man, I loved Witch Doctor. And I said, could we get him? So she sent along the first script and my character breakdowns to Lucas. And he instantly responded and was like, I love this. He threw out a bunch of sketches to us, which to this day almost look identical to the way Jerry as Count Crowley looks. And then, you know, Megan said, I think that Lauren would be a really good colorist for us because she's got a great style and she can get a consistent tone, and she's just knocked it out of the park. It always feels like you're looking at a John Carpenter kind of golden hour, spooky sunset fall lighting, you know, palette. And then Frank, our letterer, has done every issue. And it feels really cool to me. We're now 8 issues into this series over several years, and every issue has the same team. And I hope I can keep making this comic for as long as I live. And I hope it's always the 4 of us, you know?
No, that's great. You know, and it's really cool that you mentioned Bernie Wrightson, because when I looked at the art, I immediately thought of Bernie Wrightson, who was one of my favorite comic book artists, man. Yeah, you know, I loved, and for people who don't know, Bernie Wrightson, he's deceased now. I mean, the man blew his hand out making illustrations for like his magnum opus, Frankenstein. When I saw the art in your book, I was like, wow, this takes me back to Bernie Wrightson's art. And that immediately drew me in.
Well, I'm so glad you felt that way, because to me, Lucas is like the Bernie Wrightson of our generation. There's nobody, you know, drawing and illustrating characters the way he has, because what he does is he creates something the way Bernie did that is steeped in the tradition of classic monsters from Victorian, you know, literature through like the Universal horror, Hammer horror, that tradition. But at the same time, he's bringing something very fresh, very new to this world, and he's making it its own thing. And that's all I ever dreamed of. I wanted somebody that could convey, you know, the werewolves and the monsters really cool. Like, look at this, is so rad.
Oh,
but at the
amazing.
same time, I want to see in the face, in the eyes, the trouble, the sorrow, the desperation, the fear. I needed that. And it's got this great vintage kind of, you know, vibe to it all. I mean, this is one of my favorite panels in the whole series so far.
Oh, like, wow. That's beautiful,
it's just
man.
so good. It's just so good. So, yeah, thank you for noticing and appreciating that. I think that a lot of my early heroes in this world are, you know, artists that had a particular kind of flair for a style that Lucas he just nails it. And old creepy, you know, they recently reissued a bunch of the old Eries and Creepies and all that stuff. I could just spend the rest of my life just reading those, I want to sit by a pool with a cup of iced coffee and a stack of Eerie magazines, and I'm a happy man.
No, that's amazing, man. I'm happy to hear that. I love those comics, man. I love one of my favorite movies is Creepshow, which, you know, is an ode to those comics, man. Those, you know, it's all great. Really, I really am going to read this. I'm going to get into it, man, because I love this. And like I said, I love how it's just taking me back to all those things that you just mentioned right there, including, you know, right down to the artist, Bernie Wrightson. You know, your love of comics comes up a lot, you know, in doing research about you and reading about you. You know, you often talk about, you say things like, hey, like, I just want to make enough money to just buy some comics, man. Even right now, you're talking about how much you just loved comics and you could sit by a pool and read comics. Did you want to get into comics before you got into acting?
I don't know if I wanted to get into comics per se, but I've been collecting comics. I mean, looking behind me, you can see some of my collection. This is my long boxes. I've got DC, Marvel, Indies down here. That's not even all of them, you know, yet. I started collecting comics as a kid in Kansas City. I would go to this shop called Clint's Comics. This is the owner, Jim. He just passed away a few years ago, sadly, but I used to go to this shop in KC. And interestingly, I didn't think that being in films and television was like realistic at all when I was a kid. I dreamt about it. You know, I used to dream about being in a movie with Harrison Ford, or being the kid in a movie like Silver Bullet or Friday the 13th Part 4 or something like that. I used to always like think about that stuff, but I never imagined it really happening. And as far as comic book collecting, I think I just always assumed I wanted to collect comics my whole life and read comics. But then I ended up studying acting and beginning a career as an actor, and really finding out that it was what I believe is part of my purpose in this life, telling stories and using my love in the craft of acting and storytelling to fulfill that. And then, I struggled deeply with mental illness and addiction. And so I kind of lost my path for a while. And I was just, in this spiral of self-destruction. And by a miracle, and miracle to me is a confluence of many things. I don't need something to levitate or to walk across a body of water to constitute a miracle to me. To me, a miracle is the power of science, the human mind, the development of the understanding of the disease of addiction, the intersection of complete strangers that happen to come into your life through either recovery or accidentally, the love of complete strangers as well as your family. All of that can combine to create what I like to describe as a miracle. And some people misconstrue that and they think, oh, does that mean I just prayed and all of a sudden a miracle like mist came and I was cleaned and cured? No. The miracle is more interesting, in my opinion, than that. The miracle is all those things happening, and then my life got saved. And then it was a number of years. So by the way, this is 20 years ago. This hit me today. May 10th of this year will be my 20th sobriety birthday, which is when I began the path of mental wellness and the spiritual, journey that I'm on. But 5 years I had to live just sober, working at a job I didn't really care for, but I liked the people there, and I just lived a simple life where all I wanted was just a futon, a DVD player to watch old movies, and to buy comic books with whatever spare money I had. Then I got to actually start acting again, and I never imagined I would make a living, like get paid the bills doing acting. And I did. I got my first break working on Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight, one of the greatest superhero movies ever made. And I'm just like, I was 2 blocks away from the comic shop where I would buy my comics, filming a scene with Heath Ledger's The Joker. And I'm standing there looking at an alley where I used to sleep when I was strung out on drugs, going, that's a miracle. That is truly a miracle. And I kept always reading and loving comic books. But I will tell you, I just never saw myself having the talent or the ability to be able to actually create comic books. And then some of the writing I was doing for the stage, as well as some independent films that I had written, actually got produced. And they turned out to have a very powerful effect on some of the people who watched them. And it started to open more and more doors in my life, which all led to this moment where this guy said to me, I think we should make Count Crowley as a comic book. And it's wild, if you think about it, Korey, that like I've spent my life reading comic books. I always say this analogy, but I think it's true. I've spent my life loving donuts. I eat all the different kinds of donuts. I ate all the different flavors, all the different shapes, all the different ways that donuts are made, from Krispy Kreme to the corner donut to Winchell's to, Voodoo donuts. But I never ever cared to examine how they made the donuts. And then one day I got the chance to actually make my own donuts. And that's been 4 years now I've been working on Count Crowley. And then I dove into the artistry of the actual writing of comics, and I started reading so many great books on like Brian Michael Bendis, as we know, is one of the greats, but he wrote this great book called Words for Pictures, which I learned a lot from. My editor actually recommended that to me. And I studied the craft of, comic book writing, and now here I am, and I'm about to announce more comic books that I'm creating and I'm going to be making in the years to come.
Wow, you are truly inspirational, man. You know, I thought reading about you was inspirational, but talking to you, damn, you make me want to make something out of my life, man.
You are, and you use your platform for good. I love it. I love that you're not afraid to use your voice and speak your truth. And I got to say, that's, to me, really important, as well. As you can tell if you dive into my comic book. When I was writing about Jerry, here's this woman, you know, 1983, small town. She dreams of making it in the big time. She finally gets her break. She goes off to Cleveland. And next thing you know, the star of news reporter for the show rapes her. No one believes her because the corporate, you know, yucky yucks all think that she's just this problematic woman with the drinking problem, and they're not going to, you know, blemish their star anchor. So they basically ruin her career. She ends up back home in this small town drinking herself to death. And when the only job she can get is putting on this goofy makeup and hosting the creature feature for the small town station, which to her is like as low as it gets. But it turns out the guy she replaced, the original Count Crowley, wasn't just a horror host. He was actually a monster hunter. And monsters have been manipulating news, media, information with all this fake news and calling things fake news so that they could, you know, gain power and inroads. They realized that humanity didn't need to be attacked face on. It's much easier to turn us against one another with, you know, all the hatred and all of the misinformation and all of the separatism that we saw in the great uprising of the alt-right, hyper-nationalistic, toxic, patriarchal savagery of the last 5, 6, 7 years. Not that it hasn't been a part of our landscape for hundreds of years, but this new confrontation with it, to me, you know, was very eye-opening, because it's something that, you know, obviously many people from many walks of life have been confronting for generations. But here you've got the privilege of white maleness, straight white maleness, just existing in the world and going, wait, what is going on? So pouring all that into my writing and my comic books, you know, that might turn some people off, Korey, just like speaking your truth might turn some people off to your show. I don't care. I said to my wife, if me speaking my truth about stuff that matters is going to cost me people buying my comic books because they want to call me a woke writer or whatever they want to say about me, I don't give a crap. I don't care what I post on social media, because you know what? When I'm 90 years old, or I hope I live that long, whenever I'm laying on my deathbed, what's more important? That I sold more comic books? That I sold more tickets to my movies? Or are my kids going to be more proud of the fact that, like, we stood up for something that mattered, you know, and equality and equity and kindness and humanity and civility and education? How about that? You know? So bite on that, Matt Getz.
Well, you know what? I had your name up there. I put actor, writer. Now I just need to put overall just badass human being, man. Just really cool human being, civil human being. I love this, man. I mean,
Thank you.
I really love talking about your career. I really love talking about, you know, your aspirations with your art. But I mean, just listening to you talk personally about yourself is amazing. I mean, and it really truly is inspirational to hear that. You know, especially with you being so open about your addiction. For those who might not know, and you can tell it. Are you okay with me saying this?
Absolutely.
You for a while you suffered from heroin addiction before your career really took off. If I may ask, what were the conditions that kind of led you into that addiction?
I believe my struggles with mental illness, part of which I was born with some cognitive, chemical, imbalances that were probably most likely hereditary, which found me as a young person prone to extreme depression depths and high anxiety heights, so it's kind of vasculating, but mostly down in the darker depression basement. And you combine that with, there was conflict in my household. We had conflict. There was generational abuse. I had a grandfather who was abusive, both emotionally, psychologically, physically, sexually. I had, a lot of turmoil and conflict in the house, but so did everybody. So it's not to say that that's the cause, but I think the confluence of that combined with my own natural propensity to mental, struggles, all kind of cooked up this stew that by the 5th grade, I was super, super depressed to the point where I was kind of fixated on the idea of suicide. And when that was uncovered, because of the culture in which I was raised, mental health, science, all of that was kind of put as second or third or fourth or fifth priority behind the religious world in which I was raised. So I was kind of treated, if you will, with religion, which can be a very powerful tool, I think, for support and community and faith and hope, but it wasn't all that I needed. I actually needed like professional help. And that was something that was kind of frowned upon, stigmatized, if you will. It still is, by the way, in case, whoever's out there watching, if you're ashamed to go get help because of mental illness and struggles that you're facing about depression, or you were raised to believe that seeing a therapist or psychiatrist is some kind of weakness to your masculinity or some kind of ding against who you are as a person, trust me, that's all complete BS. But because I don't think I received the treatment that I should have received, I started at a pretty young age medicating myself through alcohol, and then pretty rapidly that evolved into illicit substances. So it wasn't like your typical normal, I think, teenager that smokes pot, gets drunk, has fun. It was kind of like a medication, if you will, and a daily medication. And I was still very functional, high-functioning human. And once I got my first taste of what opiates felt like, it was over. It was like, that was it. I felt completely the way I felt like a normal person probably was supposed to feel. And so that's what I continued to do. And now, as we know, addiction is a vicious monster, and it crept up on me. You don't see it coming. You don't start using drugs and go, oh, I'm going to be living in a car stealing CDs to support a habit. It happens. And here I was, a kid from, white middle-class American kid, all of a sudden living and running drugs in the streets of Chicago, getting beat up by, vice cops and going through projects and running. I sometimes run opiates from Chicago down to like Kansas and Missouri to try and get speed to take back up there. I mean, it was a dark, terrible life that I was. As soon as I fell into the spiral of addiction, I went right back to, of course, to the suicidal desperation. And I definitely believed that the only way out for me was through death. And I tried very hard to kill myself, but life wasn't ready to let me go. And like I spoke of earlier, through a series of miraculous confluence of both, getting my life saved by first responders and the mental health I received from being in a state mental facility, to my sister helping find me a sliding scale place where I could go and live for a month to get help learning about recovery. I lived in like a halfway house, and I had worked at like Long John Silver's, which where I grew up is like a fast food fish restaurant, got a job back there, and then slowly built my life back to learning how to live sober and how to finally get treatment for the depression, anxiety, and mental health issues I had been struggling with. And Korey, at this point, I don't remember what question you probably asked me. I'm a meandering I'm already an old man storyteller. My wife and friends will laugh because I just get talking and I go off. But I figure that's what we're here to do today. So I'm just diarrheaing at the mouth. And I hope you've got a good mop there at the studio. You could clean it up somehow.
I'm not cleaning this up. I'm leaving it all over the floor to dry and harden, and it's going to be there permanently. This is what we're here for, man. This is what I'm here for. This is about you, and you actually. And by the way, I'm just intentionally listening because a lot of things. First of all, this is very interesting. You've already answered a lot of questions I wanted to ask anyway. So, we covered all that, man. This was awesome. And I will ask you a couple of more things before we go. As of right now, everyone knows your face and people are starting to know your name, thanks to things like you being Polka Dot Man in the Suicide Squad. Of course, you being an Ant-Man. You were just doing huge projects. And, looking at where you came from, and you're talking about, like, I worked at Long John Silver's and got back on my feet after I was already having acting jobs. What was the big break after Sobriety?
Okay, so I had relocated back up to Chicago, which I loved. It's my second home. And I was working by day for Time Life Libraries in telemarketing with people who are still my friends to this day, even though I was terrible at the job and I didn't like the job very much, but they let me stay employed there. And I would write a lot of my scripts and ideas down at work and get in trouble. But my boss, he was nice. He never fired me. And then at night, I was working at the movie theater. The Webster Place Cinema is what it used to be called. Now I think it's something else. But and you know what? Two friends, people who had known me back in the day, who were theater directors, producers of theater in Chicago, came in and said, "I thought you were dead." I said, "Well, I'm not. I'm still alive." And they said, "Well, you're such a good actor. You need to get back on stage." And I said, "I don't know." And they encouraged me and helped me get back on stage, and it went really well. So I consider that a big break. But then what happened with that was, a casting director from Chicago saw me in one of those plays, and he brought me in to audition for a television commercial for Singular Wireless. I played a young man talking to his future father-in-law. I said, Jimbo, Jimmy Crackcorn, and I don't care. And he's laughing, but I can't hear him, so I think he doesn't like my joke. That commercial went the equivalent of 2007 viral, where it was like playing all the time, internet YouTube craze, but it was on TV all the time. And then I because of that commercial and because of the theater I was doing, I was able to start like cobbling together a living. And then a few months after that, in the spring of 2007, almost 15 years ago right now, I got to audition for one of the bank robbers in Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight. I went in to audition. The casting director recognized me from that cell phone commercial, and he and his assistant brought me back into an office, and they had me do this scene. They gave me some notes and coaching, and then I came back the next day. I got to audition for Christopher Nolan, and he ended up casting me in a much bigger role than what I had auditioned for. And that was the break. That was the thing that like cracked open this, like, I was in a movie, not only just a movie, I was in one of the most important movies of its time with one of the most important directors of all time. And that endorsement, that blessing, that experience, what have you, it paved the way. I went from Chicago then I lived in New York for 1 year, met my wife, didn't get many auditions, but I was still doing commercials. And then in 2010, we moved to Los Angeles, and I've been in LA for 12 years. And just, on my theater resume and that one role in The Dark Knight, I was able to start building a career out here and get myself into doors. And now we're trying to build a mini empire. We got a lot of creative irons in the fire and a lot of wonderful relationships with creatively talented collaborators. And we just have some really great friends and beautiful kids. And, when I say my life is a miracle, again, I don't mean that I just sat down and wished for something and a miracle happened. A miracle in that we worked so hard, and the kindness of both strangers and friends and family who believed in me. And it's really wild to think that I'm sitting here getting to talk to you about all this, considering where my life could have gone. And I don't take for granted or for a second any of it. It's a gift. It's a privilege. So many other people before me and so many other people after me who have the same struggles, never get off the streets, never get the opportunities, don't have any of the resources I've been given to help get myself back on my feet. So my cause in life now, with any wealth or platform that I can be given, is to try and create equitable access to mental health treatment and opportunities for people for the rest of my life. I hope that's something that I can have an impact on.
Yeah, no, this, again, amazing story. Got more out of this than I ever could have hoped for in this conversation. I know you have to go soon. Just a couple of things I want to tell you, and it can be quick. And this is not me laying it on thick. I'm not blowing smoke up you, man. But when I saw The Dark Knight, you were one of the people that stood out to me the most. When that scene there,
Tell me what you know about the Joker.
You look so wild in that scene, and everybody, myself, my friends, we were all saying, man, who was that crazy guy in The Dark Knight? That guy has an incredible face. It's like we didn't know we'd ever see you again or not, but we were like, damn, that made an impression right there. So
Thank you.
Yeah.
What a gift. What a gift,
yeah.
Man. I've been given so many great gifts as an actor, but that is definitely one of the greatest gifts ever. That one, what a gift. And I was so blessed that I had a lifetime of reading comic books and researching these kinds of characters, that I could create something that was inspired by a life dedicated to reading comics, and all those years of being told that I was wasting my money on comics.
Last thing here. You talk about how Christopher Nolan kind of brought you on and relaunched your career, man, and kind of got you started to where you are today. I know that he has Oppenheimer coming out, and you're going to be in there, right? So
yes.
Does he call you now? You don't have to audition for this guy anymore, right?
You know, I did not have to audition, but the way that it happened was really amazing. I had worked on The Suicide Squad, which was produced by Chuck Roven, one of the most, incredible, legendary producers in Hollywood working right now, who's just an amazing human being. And Chuck had also produced The Dark Knight. And Chuck and I got very close during the filming of The Suicide Squad. And when it finished, we stayed in touch. And then the pandemic happened, obviously, and he would check in to see if me and the family were okay, and yada, yada. And then he messaged me back over the holidays, and he said, I was just in a meeting with, they're making this movie Oppenheimer, and Chris Nolan, your name came up, and I think there's a role in it for you. And it was a big moment for me, as you can imagine. It was a chance for me to get to go back and shake Mr. Nolan's hand and thank him for this incredible gift he's given me. The career that I have, the life that I have, is all thanks to him, including me in that film, The Dark Knight. And I believe, he's about to make something I cannot wait for people to see, and getting to be a part of that is, it's such an honor. And yeah, I pinch myself, but then I say, don't pinch me, because if I am dreaming, I don't want to wake up.
Nice, man. Very nice. Hey,
look who showed up. Come here.
I heard her.
There she is.
Bubblegum.
Say hi.
Hey, what's going on? Usually, man, that really is a chill cat. That's an adorable cat, man.
She's the best.
Got to get her a
so
TikTok
special.
channel or something. No, usually I have my little chihuahua here when I'm doing stuff. She has to be here. For some reason today, she found something better to do. But, man, not only are you incredible guy, not only does he have a great attitude about life, about people, he's also a guy that loves animals, at least cats. So, hey, man, I know you got to go at this moment. We're timed out here. You told me the time you had to leave, and we're there. But I got to say, this has been a great conversation. It's been just wonderful sitting down and listening to you. I could listen to you all day. You need to put out some, you just need to put out some audio of you just talking, man. Inspirational audios, a podcast or something. I would listen to that in my car.
Tell my wife and kids that, would you? Because they tell me to shut up.
He needs a podcast where he can talk all day. Don't you ever shut this man up. I don't know if she heard me or not, but hey, David, thank you so much, man. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. It was such a pleasure to be on the show, and we'll meet again someday, all right?
I hope so. I hope so. And I look forward to everything that's coming up. Thank you so much. And I know you need to go, so I'll let you go ahead and see yourself out by stopping, but thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
See ya.
Thank you.
And there he goes. Oh, folks, I really could just sit down and listen to that man talk all day. Like, the camera wasn't on me, but I was sitting there the whole time like, oh, wow. I really loved this interview. Really love hearing this man talk. I said it in an interview. I've told you before. I say it almost every interview. But again, another example of I'm not here to talk, man. I'm not here to hear myself. I'm here to hear these people. I lose myself sometimes just forgetting that this is an interview. And I just think this is just me listening to somebody just pass on really great stories and advice. It's wonderful. And you people out there, you helped me get to this spot to where I can do that. So I'm very grateful for that. I can't wait for the next interview. Can't wait for the next show that we do with you. So before then, if you have anything to say to me, I told you, don't you hesitate to get a hold of me. You can do it night, day, whether I'm awake, I'm asleep. Just pop open the keyboard and type in for me, kcoolmans@gmail.com. That's KCOOLMANZ@gmail.com. And you email us with any kind of questions, comments, compliments, insults, input, and/or advice. Also hit us up on our social medias, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Just copy all those details down right there and memorize it. Love it, but you got to use it. I want to hear from you. Also, find yourself here in Austin, Texas. By all means, please try to get a hold of us. But let us know you're here first so we can clear our schedules for you. kcoolmans@gmail.com. Let us know if you're moving here to Austin, Texas or just passing through. And that way we can make plans to hang out with you. All right, everybody, that is it. Once again, thank you so much. And I want to thank our guest again, David, let me see if I can get this right. Dastmalchian. David Dastmalchian. Remember, Dastmalchian right here. I messed that name up badly when I got on. I really appreciate him being patient with me and not get mad at me. All right, folks. Good night, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Whenever you are listening to or watching this, goodbye and stay toasty.